The vibrant colours of Neon Tetras makes them one of the more popular fish to keep within the hobby, and this video will help you decide if these are a good fit for your aquarium. Neon Tetras are one of the most recognisable fish within the fish keeping hobby due to their iridescent stripe that covers their upper body. The underside of the fish consists of a white belly and an iridescent red stripe that contrasts well against green plants, making them a popular option for aquascapers. Cardinal Tetras have a very similar appearance to Neon Tetras, but as you can see here, the iridescent red stripe on a cardinal Tetra covers their belly, whereas the Neon Tetra have a white belly. Most Neon Tetras max out at around 1.5 inches or around 4 centimeters, making them small enough to work well in a lot of smaller tank sizes that are popular with beginners. There is some slight dysmorphism between male and female neons, with adult females being slightly larger than males while also having a rounder body and a slight bend in their blue neon stripe, but this can be difficult to see. Just like most popular tropical fish, there are some selectively bred strains of Neon Tetras, with the diamond, platinum and gold variants being the more popular ones, but I've never actually seen them for sale myself. The minimum recommended tank size for Neon Tetras is up for debate, with some people being able to successfully keep 6 neons in a 10-gallon tank, but slightly larger tanks are usually recommended. Unlike other popular fish such as guppies that will happily occupy all levels of the water column in their tank, Neon Tetras do tend to stick to the middle of the water column. Due to this, the footprint size of the tank will be more important than overall water volume, ensuring the neons have plenty of space to swim horizontally within the middle of the water column. A lot of Neon Tetra keepers do recommend a tank that has a footprint of 24 inches by 12 inches or 60 centimeters by 30 centimeters. Depending on the height of the tank, this will usually bring the tank in with a total water volume of around 15 US gallons or 57 liters. Just like with most fish, larger tanks are usually a better option, especially with neons, and I keep mine in a 29-gallon community tank. Neon Tetras can do well in a wide range of different tank setups due to the fish being native to a huge range in South America. Many people focus on the population clusters of the Neon Tetras found in the Amazon basin, but there's also additional clusters found hundreds of miles away in western Brazil, southeastern Colombia and eastern Peru. Their native habitats include everything from small, slow-moving blackwater streams to large clear-water rivers with high water flow. The foliage and botanical content of these bodies of water can drastically change too. Some areas have large amounts of aquatic plants, while others are covered in fallen branches, tree roots and leaf litter, with some streams offering minimal cover at all. As you can see, my own Neon Tetras are kept in a tank that has a large piece of driftwood in there with thick plant cover to the rear of the tank, but it is very rare that I actually see them interacting with the plants. The vast majority of the time, my Neon Tetras are in the swim spaces at the front or rear of the tank, and very rarely in the covered areas. An argument can be made that adding hiding spots such as large plants to your tank can help keep your Neon Tetras calm and free from stress, but a counter argument can be made that a lot of Neon Tetras stay away from plants and covered areas because that's where they think predators could be lurking. As you can see, my tank does have some tannins in the water column that are leaching out of the driftwood, but you could add additional botanicals to your tank if you want to create a blackwater setup. Although Neon Tetras are native to a huge area in South America, their waters are usually of tropical temperature and have a soft pH. I usually maintain a consistent water temperature of 77 degrees Fahrenheit or 25 degrees Celsius in my own tank, with a pH hovering around 6.5, but there is some wiggle room in there. The recommended water temperature range for Neon Tetras does range from a low of 68 degrees up to 82 degrees Fahrenheit, which converts to 20 degrees Celsius up to 28 degrees Celsius, with the pH ranges being from as low as 4 up to 7.5. Just like all fish, you should be trying to keep your ammonia and nitrite levels as low as possible before adding your Neon Tetras, so adding them to a cycled, somewhat established tank is probably a good idea. Although nitrate isn't as toxic to fish as ammonia and nitrite, you should be trying to keep your nitrate levels as low as possible and managing it via regular water changes or the growth of emergent plants or floating plants in your tank. It was an absolute pain to get my Neon Tetras to consistently eat foods that are widely available in pet shops in my area, and the majority of the information that I could find on the internet just doesn't apply to my Tetras. This resulted in me purchasing a wide range of different foods that ended up being used to feed my other fish. Although it is a guess, I do think that this will depend on what the breeder of your Neon Tetras feeds the fish, all the way from being fried to selling them to their retail stores. Technically, Neon Tetras are omnivores that should eat both plant-based and animal-based food sources, but I've never actually had any luck with plant-based foods with my neons. A large number of sources online do say that Neon Tetras will happily eat flake-based foods, especially especially as they sink through the water column, but I've personally never had any luck with feeding my neons flake-based fish food. The three main foods that I feed to my Neon Tetras are fluval bug bites, NT Labs microchrome, or frozen daphnia, and all three seem to do really well. My larger Neon Tetras also seem to love bloodworm, but they're just too big for my smaller neons to eat because I have to go with the assorted size of frozen bloodworm. I can't find any vendors for these strictly smaller ones. I often see people online say Neon Tetras will only eat from the middle of the water column, but this is not true with my Neon Tetras, and they will happily eat food from the substrate, especially if it's fluval bug bites. This clip shows my Neon Tetras eating NT Labs microchrome, and as you can see they get excited and they dart around the tank hunting for the little tiny granules of food. This clip shows my Neon Tetras eating some of the frozen daphnia that I try to feed at least once per day. I did add extra daphnia today because it's Wednesday when I recorded this, and Wednesday is when they get a main meal of frozen daphnia. And then this clip shows my Neon Tetras eating fluval bug bite granules from the substrate, and as you can see there's daphnia and NT Labs microchrome floating around the water column, but as soon as the fluval bug bites are in that water column they ignore everything and that's all they want to eat. One useful tip that you might be able to take advantage of, especially with smaller Neon Tetras, is to put your bug bites into a pepper grinder and then grind that into your water column so the granules are smaller. Feeding frequency can be adapted to your daily schedule, but I add food to my community tank with my Neon Tetras in twice per day, and I really don't worry about there being any leftover food to pollute the water because I have Corydoras, Amano shrimp and cherry shrimp in this tank, and they take care of anything the other fish don't eat. In my experience, Neon Tetras are very peaceful fish and they should work well in a species specific tank or a community tank similar to mine. I do spend a lot of time watching my tanks and I've never once witnessed my Neon Tetras being aggressive to any of the other species in the tank. That said, I have seen my Neon Tetras chase each other, and I would guess that this is just the fish trying to establish their hierarchy. There has been one incident where some of the larger Neon Tetras would constantly chase a smaller one if it came to the front of the tank, and it just ended up living in the back of the tank and I'd have to target feed it. Unfortunately, I did lose that smaller Neon Tetra earlier this month due to a curved spine health issue, and I'm not sure if the other neons knew that that fish was diseased and they were just trying to chase it away, or if it was due to a hierarchy issue. In my experience, Neon Tetras are definitely a social fish and they do shoal from time to time and definitely seem to prefer having other fish from their species within the tank with them. I often see people recommend that you keep a minimum of 6 Neon Tetras in your tank, but I started with 10 and I have 9 left due to losing one, and they really do seem very happy. A lot of people do have the misconception that Neon Tetras are a schooling fish, but in my experience this isn't the case at all. Neons do seem to shoal in certain situations, but in my experience the majority of my neons are happy enough to just swim off freely without the group and do their own thing. This clip is from when I first added my neons to the tank, and as you can see they are grouped up and displaying some shoaling behaviour, and this is normal when you first add Neon Tetras to a new tank. As the fish become more comfortable with their surroundings and realise that they're safe and free from predators, they will become increasingly independent and their shoaling frequency will decline. From what I've seen online, this is totally normal and to be expected with the species, so don't worry if your Neon Tetras suddenly stop shoaling in your tank, and it can actually be a good sign that they are happy and comfortable in their new aquarium. Personally, I only like to talk about tank mates that I have first-hand experience with, so this list will be kind of short, but I am confident that Neon Tetras will do well in most community tank-friendly fish. In addition to my neons, my 29-gallon tank currently has honey gourami, chili rasboras, Corydoras, Amano shrimp and cherry shrimp in it. I also used to keep guppies in the tank too, but I have moved them to their own dedicated guppy tank, but there was no issues between the guppies and the Neon Tetras. As I mentioned earlier, the only aggression that I've ever seen from my Neon Tetras was aimed at other Neon Tetras, and even then it's only light chasing, no fin nipping or anything like that. I've never once seen them act aggressively to their tank mates of other species, and in my experience it's very rare they interact with anything other than food. On the flip side of that, I've never seen any of the tank mates act aggressively towards the Neon Tetras either, and they kind of just leave them alone to swim around and look for whatever they want to do. Unfortunately, the beautiful looks of Neon Tetras are a double-edged sword, as their popularity within the fish keeping hobby has caused certain breeders to focus on maximising the output rather than fish health. I've actually lost count of the number of posts I've seen seen on social media now where people have had problems with Neon Tetras due to potential inbreeding within the species. As I mentioned earlier in the video, I did lose one of my Neon Tetras earlier this month due to it having issues with a curved spine. I shared this photograph in my month 2 update for my first planted tank where the curve initially started in this fish, but over the following weeks it got worse and worse and worse. By the time the fish actually passed, its spine had curved so badly it essentially had a 90-degree angle in its body and couldn't even swim correctly. I did research this to try and prevent any issues with my other Neon Tetras, and it does seem that curved spines are unfortunately common in Neon Tetras, with it usually being due to genetic problems from inbreeding, but Neon Tetra disease may cause this too. I also saw some people report that Neon Tetras that have fish TB can develop a curved spine, but I don't think this was the issue with my fish, as all of my other Neon Tetras are fine. Neon Tetra disease does seem to be a very common problem with the species, and I've seen a lot of people on social media have problems with it. The most obvious symptom of Neon Tetra disease is the rapid loss of coloration in the fish, and due to the bright colours of Neon Tetras, this really is obvious. Other symptoms to look out for include restlessness in your fish, cysts randomly forming, difficulty swimming, bloating, and a curved spine. Unfortunately, at the time of recording, there's no reliable treatment for Neon Tetra disease, and it can be contagious, so most people recommend that you quarantine any sick fish and implement strict culling procedures if you do have issues with it. Neon Tetras are one of the cheaper fish in the hobby, and they are widely available, and all of my local fish shops sell them. I managed to get my 10 Neon Tetras for £10 or around $12 online, but I did have to purchase them as a bundle of 10 fish. Single neons usually retail for around £2 in my area, with that working out as around $2.50. Suitable kit tanks for Neon Tetras that are around the 15-gallon mark with a suitable footprint are also quite cheap, making Neon Tetras a very budget-friendly fish. As I mentioned earlier in the video, Neon Tetras are a tropical fish, so most people really should be using a tank heater in their aquarium. Modern aquarium heaters really don't cost much to run, and most people will find that they'll be able to heat a small 15-gallon tank for around the cost of a Starbucks coffee. And if you do live in a warmer area with higher ambient temperatures, the cost of your heater will be far lower than this. Neon Tetras are technically a beginner-friendly fish that are cheap to purchase and easy to care for, but there does seem to be a lot of luck in this. Unfortunately, the species are plagued with various health issues, and I honestly do consider myself lucky to have only lost one of my Neon Tetras throughout the duration of me keeping the species. In my experience, they really were a pain to get to eat, but if you stick to bug bites, Daphnia and NT Labs microchrome or any equivalent sized foods, you shouldn't have any problems, and you should be able to keep your food costs down. After keeping Neon Tetras and researching them more and more to ensure I can offer them the best care possible, I definitely see why so many people recommend you go with cardinal tetras or green Neon Tetras over regular neons. All in all, I am happy that I purchased my Neon Tetras, but at times I do worry about an outbreak of Neon Tetra disease in my tank and sometimes wish that I had gone for cardinal tetras instead.